Hi everyone, welcome to our video today. I am Lisa from Down to Earth Gardening and Design, and today we're going to be talking about small yard garden design tips. So right now I'm down here in Florida. I go back and forth between Florida and Connecticut. I have a small postage stamp yard down here in Florida, and I'm going to talk about 7 tips to make it interesting and show you how we did that here, because we've just started landscaping our small backyard. So our small backyard is roughly 40 by 50. And what I have to tell you folks at home that have small yards is that they can be super attractive and interesting. So I think that I've seen actually a lot of small yards and worked with clients that have small yards, and they can be so much fun and interesting. So I want to give you 7 easy tips to achieve that interest. So as a designer, I always say the best planned garden is the best garden, right? So when you don't have a lot of space, you really have to plan it out and think about some design tips and some plants that you really love because you don't have a lot of space. So first I'm going to give you just some general design tips to think about before we get to the meat and potatoes and give you the 7 tips. So I have 3 things to think about before you start your design. So number 1 is, remember I said I'm in Florida, I'm in zone 10A. You want to make sure you know your plant hardiness zones. So that is super important for all of you at home to know that when you're selecting your plants, and that's going to set you up for the most success. So always look at your plant tags or do a little research first. So number 2 is think about how much time you have to care for your garden. So you may want to make it a little lower maintenance if you don't have a lot of time to be out there in the garden doing some garden tasks. And this design I'm going to show you today is lower maintenance because we are not here year round, so it really has to be for me. But you may have a little more time and you can make your garden a little fuller or get some plants that are a little more high maintenance for you. Okay, number 3 is you want to think about sunlight. Also super important. So this garden back here gets some morning sun, and I have some dappled shade with this live oak tree that's overhead here. So you want to watch the area before you do your planting and just see if you have part sun, full sun, or full shade. So remember, full sun is considered 6+ hours a day. Okay, let's get to our 7 tips here because this is a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun with this little area here. So number 1 is think about your viewpoint of your garden or gardens and where you're really looking at your gardens from, and then also what parts you're using the most. So I wanted to start here at this fence here that's right on the back line because we're sitting in the lanai most of the time and looking out at it. So I want to look at some pretty things. I want to see some movement with a lot of my plants. And I also want to see some pollinators, some birds and whatnot out here enjoying the garden as well. So viewpoint is important, and a lot of people don't think about that. They dress up around their house first. But what are you looking at? What's your company enjoying when they come over for a visit? Okay, number 2 is you want to mix up your interest with some texture. Think about your foliage and, of course, your flowers, their size, and also their color. So here I really wanted to do more of a tropical theme. So new for me, and I'm really loving it. But I have some really nice texture here with this palm. So different style foliage here. And then as we move around, I have my little magnolia. And you can see different leaf here. And then flower color, shape, and sizes. I have a tropical hibiscus in front of me, which is a really nice pop of color. And then I have a pretty pink behind me. So don't be afraid to mix it up. And another thing I want to say about foliage, especially for my northern friends, is that you want to think about your evergreen and deciduous. So you'll want to have some evergreens that hold their needles or leaves all through the year, and then some deciduous which will lose their leaves. So you want to make sure that you mix that up as well. So number 3, you want to think about vertical interest, and one of the easy ways you can do that if you have a small yard is by using climbers, right? Because they're tall and they are skinnier. So we talked about the mandevilla, so that's going to be a climber here. And stay tuned for our video on what we're going to use as a trellis. We're going to be doing some repurposing for that. And then I have another climber down here, which is a Carolina yellow jasmine. So just a little aside, in the future you're going to be seeing some more videos on these plants and the progress and a little more details about them. So next tip is, we talked about vertical interest. Definitely need to get some shrubs and trees in there. And my tip on that is make sure they are dwarf. So I want to go back to this palm here. This is a pygmy palm. Now I also have these in the front of my house, and you have probably seen those in another video. I love these because they stay small. So of course I had to get my palm tree in here. This will max out at about 12 feet tall. So a lot of palms get very tall, and having a small yard, we can't really afford our full size trees. Okay, we're going to move to our next tip on that. And if you do have a tree or shrub that gets quite large and you want to hold it back a little bit and keep it a little smaller, put it in a container. So I just did a video on this. This is a fairy blush magnolia. Maxes out at about 12 feet tall, but I'd like to keep it a little shorter. So we put it in this large fiberglass pot. So that is a trick if you are really in love with a shrub or tree that will get a little too big for your small yard landscape. You want to keep it a little smaller. Okay, let's talk about tip number 6, and I really love this one. This one is so simple. So using curves or mixing up the shapes of your garden in your little backyard design is really going to add a lot of appeal and interest. So a lot of times our little backyards will have some straight lines. So I have a little bit of a rectangle back here. So it was so much fun to map out, and I sprayed my line just to see what it would look like. I used marker paint. You could also just try out your different shapes with a garden hose. You could lay it out just to see how that would look. But I love how the curves of this really highlight my specimens and my plants, but really soften the sharp edges of my little backyard. So last tip, number 7, is also an easy one, and it is mix up your mulches or your top dressings of your garden. So we divvied up some sections here, and I have everything towards the back covered in this white stone. And then in the front here, I have 2 tropical hibiscus plants here. I've got this one here, gorgeous colors. And then I have another peach one at the end. And we'll try to throw up some close-ups of those so you can see those a little bit better. But I have some fine ground mulch here. So think about sectioning some little areas off. You could even do some circles if you'd like, and using some different top dressings. So when I say top dressings, I mean you could use some different colored stone, different shapes, different sizes, or you could use some mulch, or you could also use some ground cover plants to mix it up a little bit. So that's it, 7 easy tips, and I'm so enjoying this garden here, especially in the morning when I sit out on the lanai and have my cup of coffee. So I hope you enjoyed my tips today. I love garden design, garden maintenance, plants, planting. And if you liked my video, please go ahead and tap like and subscribe to our channel for lots more gardening fun.